The book of James, chapter 3, verse 10 through 12. Out of the same mouth proceed blessing and cursing. My brethren, these things are not to be so. Does a spring send forth fresh water and bitter from the same opening? Can a fig tree, my brethren, bear olives, or a grapevine bear figs? Thus, no spring yields both salt water and fresh.
The secret relationship between King and Lee. How did an old Confederate general from the 1800s impact a federal holiday known as Martin Luther King Day? For this answer, we have to backtrack to the presidency of Ronald Reagan. In 1983, 2 years into President Reagan's term, a 15-year-old legislative bill was signed into law. This bill was called the King Holiday Bill. Now, from the outside looking in, some would say this was a courageous, noble act performed by the president. But like most American historical events, this was far from the truth. Now, who was Robert Edward Lee? To keep it short, he was a Confederate Army general who fought in the Civil War to keep enslaved of all Hebrews kidnapped from Negroland and transported to America by way of the transatlantic slave trade. Lee was born on a plantation in Northern Virginia in 1807, but the controversy of Lee's birth date doesn't so much lie in his military occupation, but it lies within the date of his birth, January 19th. Almost 2 decades after General Lee's death in 1870, 5 southern states, Virginia, North Carolina, Arkansas, Alabama, and Mississippi, convened to commemorate and honor his life. And by 1889, a legal holiday known as Robert E. Lee Day was created. This legal holiday was celebrated every year on his birthday, January 19th. Virginia, the state where Lee was born, took it a step further and combined this holiday with another Army Confederate general, Thomas J. Stonewall Jackson, to create Lee Jackson Day. Today, only 2 of the 5 states celebrate Robert E. Lee Day, Mississippi and Alabama. And guess what day they celebrate General Lee's birthday? The same day as Martin Luther King Day, every 3rd Monday in January. Now, how is it that the holiday of a Confederate general's birthday, January 19th, merged with the federal holiday of one of the greatest civil rights leaders of all time, Martin Luther King Jr.? Once again, we have to circle back to President Ronald Reagan. 4 days after Martin Luther King was assassinated, on April 4, 1968, Democratic Michigan Congressman John Conyers proposed the King Holiday Bill. This bill was designated the 3rd Monday in January, a federal holiday in observance of civil rights leader Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. This bill would be delayed 15 years for approval by the federal government and subsequently take an additional 17 years for it to be recognized in all 50 states. After 15 years of political pressure from civil rights leaders, the King Holiday Bill was reluctantly passed by Ronald Reagan on November 2, 1983. President Reagan's racism was on full display weeks leading up to the signing of the bill as well. Not only did he co-sign and help push a false narrative of Dr. King being a strong proponent of communism, but Reagan was also quoted on October 20, 1983 saying, "I would have preferred a non-holiday in King's honor, but since they seem bent on making it a national holiday, I believe the symbolism of that day is important enough that I will sign that legislation when it reaches my desk."
I would have preferred that, but since they seem bent on making it a national holiday, I believe the symbolism of that day is important enough that I'll sign that legislation when it reaches my desk.
President Reagan was also instrumental in allowing Mississippi and Alabama, aka Confederate states, to merge the Robert E. Lee holiday, later to be called Confederate Heroes Day, with Martin Luther King Day, after the bill was signed into law. This one single act of racism by a president gave precedence for other states to convolute Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Many states, besides Mississippi and Alabama, included additional holidays on the 3rd Monday of January to celebrate concurrently with MLK Day. Arizona and New Hampshire, for example, celebrate Civil Rights Day, and Wyoming celebrates Wyoming Equality Day. Although Martin Luther King Day has been recognized in all 50 states since early 2000, racism still permeates throughout his recognized birthday. So the next time you're thinking of honoring the life of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., remember this same day is occupied by someone who wanted to keep you enslaved for eternity.
Don't let anybody take your manhood. Be proud of our heritage. If somebody said earlier tonight, we don't have anything to be ashamed of. Somebody told a lie one day. They couched it in language. They made everything black, ugly, and evil. Look in your dictionary and see the synonyms of the word black. There's always something degrading and low and sinister. Look at the word white. It's always something pure, high, and clean. I want to get the language so right that everybody here will cry out, yes, I'm black, I'm proud of it, I'm black and beautiful.
God is gonna trouble the wild. There's healing in the water, yeah. Deliverance in the water. My God is gonna trouble